everybody. So welcome back and thanks for taking some time. I wanted to go over some things that I think you will find very interesting. Acupuncture, as it's done in our clinic, it's a very unique style that we use. It's very gentle, which is different than what most people think. As a matter of fact, the first time I ever had acupuncture, these hands were completely sweating. There was actually perspiration on the table before she placed the points, and then even using a very aggressive Chinese method, which funny enough we don't even use in this clinic, we use more of a Japanese method which is a lot more gentle, but even someone myself who was totally needle sensitive, hands sweating, I just thought my problem, I had this digestive issue, it's been going on for years, it's bad enough. Did I ever tell you this story, Amanda? It's kind of a funny one. No. I thought if it's bad enough that it's going to just affect me the rest of my life, I'll just try acupuncture and see what happens, and I pray that it works. Anyway, here I am sweating, I'm lying on the table, this woman comes over and places the points. I felt, probably about 2 out of 10 in that case. I felt like a little bit of a pinch or mosquito bite, and my stomach started to gurgle, and I completely fell asleep. And over the course of time, my digestive problems resolved, acupuncture. It was an amazing experience, and I obviously have had a lot of acupuncture treatment since then. My parents, as a matter of fact, and the rest of my family can't even believe I'm an acupuncturist because of how needle phobic I was. It is kind of an irony. However, one should understand about acupuncture, its safety. One should understand the sensation. What does it feel like? I want to go over a little bit more, what it does feel like so that you really understand. So I'm going to show you a typical acupuncture needle, and again, we use a relatively small gauge acupuncture needle, quite a bit smaller than the average acupuncture office, but even if you go to an office where they're a little bit larger, they might be manufactured in China, whatever, it usually is relatively painless. The kind that we use are manufactured in Japan. So here is the typical needle. We also use some that are manufactured in Korea. I'm guessing that you probably can't even see that. However, that is the needle. If I can have you take a peek, you'll find it very interesting. As you can see, it's about the size of a cat whisker. So typically what would happen with the treatment is it's in a package, which, as you probably saw, I opened this. It's a blister package. It's completely sealed, and within the package is a sterile stainless steel little wire with a little handle on it, which is really all an acupuncture needle is. So I'm going to show you the process by which this would be placed into the body. So first of all, what we would do is we would take a cotton ball. These are sterile cotton balls, and we would use basically a food grade alcohol, and that alcohol is then swabbed onto the point, and the purpose of this alcohol is to disinfect the skin gently. We use a very expensive high-grade alcohol that is not dangerous to the body, similar to, say, isopropyl, which has been found to be dangerous. Like rubbing alcohol is actually quite dangerous. So we use a food-grade alcohol just because it's so much better with the research that we found out there. So then the cotton ball is discarded, and the next thing that we would do after the alcohol dries is we go ahead and place the point. So I'll give you an example. Now, this is a relatively common point in acupuncture theory. It's called Heigu. It's your only Chinese I'm going to teach you today. Basically, it's large intestine 4. So this is a point that connects to the large intestine 4, but it happens to be good for problems with sinuses. It's good for headaches, it's good for migraines, things of this nature. It's a point that helps with a lot of different things. It clears toxicity out the body. It does regulate the digestive system. In any case, there's the point. Here's the actual location, and that is the acupuncture and the placement of the needle. Now, as I did that, I honestly felt the pressure of my hand, which is what we do, which does distract the person, and did not actually feel the point go in. And as you can probably understand, it's related to the fact that it is so incredibly small, this little needle. So this would then stay, along with several other points in the body. The person would usually be lying down in a dark room with some quiet music playing, and they would potentially sleep. Most people actually sleep getting acupuncture. So that gives you an idea. There's the blister package. It's now been opened. Obviously, this would be now thrown out, And as we're throwing it out, we want to make sure that the site is completely clear of any debris or anything like that. We basically are having to use hospital standards. If you are seeing an acupuncturist and they are not using hospital standards, that's a problem. We're trying to get that sorted out in our community as it is. I've seen definitely non-optimal and non-appropriate, inappropriate, I guess would be the right word, disposal, methods for needles and for packaging and so on. Everything has to be disposed of properly. So anyway, you could get an idea of what that's like and what the point looks like in the body, and as you can see, it's definitely harmless. If anything, it's causing really positive benefit in my body. Alright, so the point would be left in the body for any number of minutes, usually anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes or so, depending on the case. And then once the acupuncture treatment is over, all of the points are removed as such. Now we have a non-sterile object. This has now been used, and so it would be destroyed. And the way that we have that destroyed is it's placed into a biohazard container. The biohazard container then is taken and incinerated. And so as you can see, it's a one-time use device. There really is no, which kind of brings me to the next question, there is no possible risk of infection of any kind. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but it's just not possible. As a matter of fact, statistically what they've found, this is interesting, is that out of every 78 million acupuncture treatments worldwide, there is one case of an infection. So then that brings me to the issue of safety. As you can see, it's a completely safe protocol. It's a very safe procedure. Basically, we comply with what's known as clean needle technique standards in this clinic, which is the national actual certification process one takes to administer needles in any way, shape, or form. And as you can see, we have a very benign, basically it's impossible for any kind of material to carry from a needle into the human body on such a small device. It's just not possible. So worldwide, which is interesting, you might find this fascinating, 1 in every 78 million treatments is there an actual experience of infection. And probably that report is coming out of China, right? So that reported incidence of infection is probably coming out of China, where they sometimes historically have reused needles after having them sterilized, and that is not something that's done. As you can see from what I just showed you, the type of needles that we use and that should be used in this country at this time in history is a one-time use sterile device that is completely destroyed after its use. So basically the possibility of infection is infinitesimal. 1 in 78 million. I mean, does anybody know the math on that? Anybody got the math on it? Anyway, maybe I'll do the math for you to clarify. So this is the number of infections that occur. 78 million treatments. 1 reported case of infection. Most likely that one coming out of China, where they sometimes reuse acupuncture needles after sterilization, which is not something that is done in this country. At least if somebody knew what they were doing, they wouldn't do it, and we certainly don't do it. As you see, it's actually got a plastic handle, an acupuncture needle. There's no way you could have it sterilized because the temperature would melt the handle. So it's a one-time use, disposed of device. Anyway, I just want to clarify that. 78 million. It just doesn't happen. I would have you Google, incidents of injury due to Western medical care, and you'll find that those numbers are definitely different. But I'll leave that to you. Feel free to put that into Google. Anyway, so the next thing I wanted to go over is I just wanted to clarify, basically a little bit about these needles and how they work and so on. As you can see, they're relatively painless. Every once in a while when I get acupuncture, I feel about 1 out of every 8. As you can see, it's a very sterile, clean, very easy procedure to receive as a person. This is the #1 concern people usually have. I wanted to draw a diagram to explain why it is that acupuncture needles are relatively painless overall. So basically what I'm going to draw for you first is not an acupuncture needle. What I'm going to draw for you is a hypodermic syringe. Okay, so this would be a typical needle that you would need to have blood drawn with, or that something would be injected into the body. Now there's a couple of things that separate this kind of a needle from an acupuncture needle. The first thing is that there is material that has to either go out of or go into the actual needle itself, so it's hollow, which means it's huge. Okay, now that's why those hurt. When you have your shots or whatever, it's very uncomfortable, and the reason is because it's hollow. Okay, it's a wide device. The other thing that you should notice here is that the very tip of this needle is serrated. Okay, and that's done that way. And sorry to cause you discomfort here, but it has to break through tissue, so that's why it would hurt. That's why people don't like shots. Now, I want to draw you an acupuncture needle. Okay, so next to this one, just as an example, this would be a typical acupuncture needle. And it would be about, if you look under a microscope, about that same exact difference or proportion. There's a couple of things I want you to know about an acupuncture needle. If you looked at the tip of an acupuncture needle under a microscope, it would be round, not sharp. You have to understand that these things are so thin that they actually part cells rather than making holes. The other thing I want you to observe is how thin it is in comparison. It's a solid stainless steel piece of metal. It's like a little wire. It's quite small. So you can see the difference there, and you can see why this would be painless and that might not be painless at all. As a matter of fact, to call that a needle is probably not the right word to use. It would probably be better to call it a wire, and it would be more accurate. But the FDA has chosen the terminology they've chosen, and that's just how it goes. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify the difference. Anyway, so as far as sensation, it's something, when I get acupuncture personally, I feel, even, when getting treatment, just myself from an acupuncturist in our clinic, I feel about 1 out of every 8. And it sometimes feels like a little mosquito bite. The rest of those 7, I don't feel at all. All I feel is the pressure of the sensation. And, the method that's used is actually a very interesting method where we, as acupuncturists in the office, we use a totally unique method that's based on a text that's 2,000 years old for inserting sharpened bones into the body, which is the original acupuncture needle. So you can imagine with a stainless steel device, that the kind that we have are actually silicone coated, kind of like a non-stick pan, and with direct pressure and application of pressure, we can cause the point to go in, and it's basically painless, probably 7 out of 8 times. For some people, they feel none of them. Someone who's real sensitive, women who are around menstruation, people who've had caffeine or something like that, maybe you'd feel 2 or 3 out of 8. But that's just because the muscles are more tense, and acupuncture over time causes the muscles to relax, and then people eventually won't feel them. Anyway, so it gives you an idea. So any questions about that, any questions about anything at all, feel free to give me a call at the office, or you can email me, and the email again, Curry, C-U-R-R-Y, at MilwaukeeACU.com. So Curry at MilwaukeeACU.com. Love to hear from you if you have any questions. I'm here to answer any questions you have. Thanks, over and out. Appreciate the time. Thanks, Amanda.